She was called the Black Venus, the Queen of Vegas, and the face that made brands finally see black beauty as powerful. Lola Falana danced, sang, and shattered glass ceilings, earning millions per year and leaving audiences breathless. Then she vanished. No scandals, no farewell tour, just silence. But where did she go? And what does she look like now, decades later? The answer isn't just surprising, it's absolutely unforgettable. The girl who danced her way out of poverty. In 1942, deep in the shadows of Camden, New Jersey, a girl named Lola Falana was born into a life most people wouldn't survive. She was the third of 6 children, squeezed into a 2-bedroom home with peeling paint, broken floorboards, and hope barely holding the walls up. Her father, a former Cuban Marine, took odd jobs in the shipyards, while her mother, Cleo, patched together income sewing clothes and preaching discipline. Poverty wasn't just a circumstance, it was a daily ritual. But even in that environment, Lola was different. She had rhythm in her bones and music in her voice, and everyone in her neighborhood knew it. By the time she was 5 years old, Lola was already singing solos in the Baptist church. At 12, she was choreographing school assemblies and slipping out at night to perform in juke joints, earning small bills for big moves. Her days were filled with homework and house chores, but her nights belonged to the stage, makeshift or not. What made her special wasn't just the talent, it was the fire behind it. She danced like she was trying to escape the ground, one local said. She would practice in front of the mirror with a mop handle as her mic and a tattered rug as her stage. She wasn't dreaming of fame. She was trying to survive. Then came the leap. At just 17, with $26 and a suitcase, Lola boarded a bus to New York City without telling anyone. She slept in subway stations, showered in public restrooms, and danced anywhere that would have her. Jazz clubs, burlesque stages, cabaret dives. The city was brutal. But so was Lola. When predators circled, her mother, Cleo, came to the rescue, traveling north to live with her daughter and chaperone her gigs. "My mama kept the wolves away," Lola later said, "and she taught me how to snarl when I had to." Her first real break didn't come from a casting call or agent. It came from sheer force of will. At 16, during a Smoky Club performance in Philadelphia, Dinah Washington happened to be in the audience. In the middle of a number, Lola's costume strap snapped. Most girls would have run off stage in shame. Lola finished the number with one arm covering her chest, then came back for 16 encores. Dinah was floored. She pulled her aside and said, "Baby, you've got the guts, and guts go further than pretty." That moment changed everything. That one performance didn't just launch her. It set her on a collision course with destiny. Because just a few months later, another icon would enter the frame. A man who saw something no one else did. A man who would change her life, her career, and her heart forever. His name was Sammy Davis Jr. And what he offered Lola wasn't just a contract. It was a crown. But every crown has its cost. Sammy Davis Jr. and the deal that changed everything. In 1964, under the dazzling lights of Atlantic City, Sammy Davis Jr. saw something that stopped him cold. A teenage girl on stage, all hips and heat, outdancing women twice her age and performing like she had nothing to lose. She didn't. That girl was Lola Falana, and Sammy knew a star when he saw one. By the time she finished her set, he had already sent someone backstage with a note. "Tell her I want to see her in New York, Broadway." Within weeks, she was cast in the hit musical Golden Boy, making her Broadway debut at just 22 years old. From there, Lola's life accelerated at impossible speed. Sammy didn't just cast her. He mentored her, promoted her, loved her. She joined his inner circle, appearing with him on stage, in clubs, and eventually, in headlines. Soon, Lola was a cover girl. Jet Magazine, Ebony, TV Guide. Her face was everywhere. She inked deals with Mercury Records, later jumping to Frank Sinatra's Reprise label, navigating an industry hostile to black performers with nothing but talent and grit. She wasn't just surviving, she was exploding. By 1966, Lola made her film debut in A Man Called Adam, opposite Sammy Davis Jr., Cicely Tyson, and Louis Armstrong. Surrounded by legends, she held her own, fierce, unafraid, unforgettable. But behind the scenes, a scandal was brewing. Her romance with Sammy had grown beyond mentorship. He was married to actress Mae Britt, and the affair wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was a Hollywood earthquake. When Sammy confessed, the marriage ended. Lola, once America's sweetheart in the making, became the other woman. The industry shifted. The fallout was swift and cold. Some branded her a homewrecker. Others saw her as a woman rising in a man's world and punished her for it. But Lola never apologized. "I didn't break up a marriage," she once said. "I showed up in my own life." Still, the tabloid firestorm threatened to overshadow her talent. Sammy, for all his power, couldn't protect her from the backlash, and some say didn't try hard enough. She was on her own again, but this time she had a name, a reputation, and a ticket to anywhere. Lola knew the cost of scandal in America, especially for a black woman. So she did what only the boldest stars do. She left. In 1966, she packed her bags and disappeared across the Atlantic. What the US cast off, Europe embraced. And in Italy, she wouldn't just find a new audience. She would become something else entirely. A muse, a myth, a goddess. The Americans called her Trouble. The Italians would call her Divine. Black Venus. When Lola Falana arrived in Italy in 1966, she carried more than luggage. She carried the weight of rejection, betrayal, and survival. But Europe didn't ask questions. It handed her a microphone, a camera, and a crown. Within 2 years, Lola was not just working. She was ruling. Fluent in Italian, glowing on television, and fearless on stage, she quickly became a household name. They didn't call her scandalous. They called her La Venere Nera, the Black Venus. Her breakout film in Europe was Lola Colt, 1967, a spaghetti western that turned heads across the continent. Dressed in boots and fringe, guns blazing, Lola was a barrier breaker, the first black woman to star in an Italian western. Critics were stunned. Fans were obsessed. It wasn't just her beauty. It was the force she brought to the screen. Lola Colt wasn't a novelty. It was a statement. She wasn't background. She was front and center, and Europe adored it. By 1970, she was everywhere, performing duets with Italian icon Mina, hosting her own specials, and signing deals with fashion houses and record labels. She won Performer of the Year twice, graced over a dozen magazine covers, and had Italian schoolchildren singing her songs. Her style, from glittering gowns to wild afros, set new trends. Unlike America, Italy didn't try to tame her. They let her evolve. And in return, she gave them magic. For Lola, Italy was more than career salvation. It was personal rebirth. She once said, "In Italy, I wasn't a color. I was a star." Her image crossed borders, from New York to Milan, from Las Vegas to Rome. and redefined what a global black entertainer could be. The woman once burned by scandal had become untouchable, not by hiding, by rising. But fame has many faces, and Lola was about to try one more, the most dangerous, the most daring. As the world entered the wild, raw 1970s, she stepped directly into the fire. Sex, politics, power, all collided on her next journey. She didn't just pose for the cameras, she took control of them. And what came next would make her a symbol and a target. The sex symbol who broke every mold. In 1970, Lola Falana did what no other black woman had ever done. She posed for Playboy. But this wasn't just about nudity. It was about power. Lola appeared not as a submissive fantasy, but as a commanding force, regal, muscular, and fiercely in control. She said later, "I didn't want to be eye candy. I wanted to be unforgettable." The spread made waves across America, stirring controversy and igniting admiration. Suddenly, she was more than an entertainer. She was a cultural disruptor. That same year, she signed with Fabergé to launch the perfume Tigresse, becoming the first black face of the luxury brand. Wild, spicy, and bold, the scent matched her perfectly. Lola didn't just wear the ad, she was the ad. Her marketing campaign won a Clio Award, signaling that the fashion world could no longer afford to ignore black elegance. This wasn't tokenism, this was takeover. She helped shift the beauty industry, one photo, one bottle, one contract at a time. But Lola wasn't done breaking rules. She entered the blaxploitation era with full force, starring in films like Lady Coco, 1975, and The Klansman, 1974. Gritty, raw, and politically charged, these films polarized critics and thrilled audiences. Some called them problematic. Lola called them necessary. "If it scares them, good," she once told a reporter. "That means they're watching." She wasn't afraid to play bold, bruised, or dangerous. Every role was a punch thrown at the system. More than anything, she controlled her image. When Hollywood tried to box her in, she flipped the box, signed the check, and walked away. Lola designed her own costumes, picked her own scripts, and redefined what it meant to be a star. Not just seen, not just heard, obeyed. At a time when black actresses were often props in someone else's narrative, Lola wrote her own. And while the silver screen was hers, it was the desert stage of Las Vegas, where Lola Falana became something else entirely. Not just a performer, not just a star, but a queen. In the City of Lights, she commanded more than attention. She commanded millions. And in an industry built to marginalize women like her, she stood at the very top, in heels, sequins, and full control. Queen of Vegas. By 1979, Las Vegas had crowned a new monarch, and her name was Lola Falana. With velvet stages, million-dollar light rigs, and Bob Mackie-designed costumes that sparkled like diamonds, Lola wasn't just headlining, she was rewriting history. That year, she inked a deal with the Aladdin Hotel worth a staggering $100,000 per week, making her the highest-paid black woman in the entire entertainment industry. At the time, that added up to over $2 million a year, and every penny was earned. Her residency filled casinos from Caesar's Palace to the MGM Grand, with crowds flying in from around the world to see her perform her signature number, Whatever Lola Wants. But this wasn't some recycled showgirl routine. Lola brought fire to the stage, blending Broadway vocals with gospel soul and electric dance. It was theatrical, spiritual, and sexy all at once. No two shows were alike because she called the shots. Lighting, choreography, song selection, every detail passed through her hands. And those hands, they didn't just entertain, they negotiated. Lola demanded and got full creative control, a percentage of ticket sales and primetime billing. She chose her dancers, her stylists, even the set design. Only Wayne Newton earned more in Vegas at the time, and even he admitted, nobody works harder than Lola. She wasn't just surviving in the white-hot lights of the Strip, she was dominating them. At her peak, she was a legend in motion, a mix of elegance and defiance, of grace and grit. Every standing ovation wasn't just for the performance, it was for the fight, the decades of climbing, clawing, and refusing to fold. Vegas was supposed to be where careers went to fade. For Lola, it was where hers reached immortality. But the same voice that filled arenas would soon go silent. Because just as Lola stood at the top of her game, a single moment, one live interview, would trigger the fall. It wasn't scandal. It wasn't sabotage. It was something far simpler: the truth. And in Hollywood, truth can be the most dangerous act of all. The Tonight Show ban that silenced a star. In 1980, Lola Falana sat across from Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show, glamorous, composed, and ready to speak. What started as a light-hearted conversation about showbiz quickly turned. Carson joked about how far a girl like you can go these days, and Lola, unflinching, called out the racism in the industry, how black women were still denied roles, equal pay, and real power. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't safe. It was real. The next morning, NBC executives held an emergency meeting. Though the episode aired, the damage, in their eyes, was done. Lola was quietly blacklisted. The Tonight Show never invited her back. Calls slowed. Contracts vanished. Within 3 months, she lost 3 major endorsements. Beauty brands that had once hailed her now claimed market shifts and budget cuts. But everyone in the industry knew the truth. Lola had broken the unspoken rule: don't talk back. Worse than the silence from networks was the silence from allies. Sammy Davis Jr. never publicly defended her. Neither did Johnny. Lola had gone too far for their comfort. Too honest, too bold, too black. The industry that once fed on her heat now left her in the cold. "I didn't leave Hollywood," she said later. "Hollywood left me." But Lola never begged for redemption. She turned down interviews, refused to play the victim. She simply disappeared. Not because she was broken, because she knew the machine, and she wasn't going to let it chew her up again. That silence? It wasn't defeat. It was defiance. For years, she stayed out of the spotlight until her body gave out. A sudden diagnosis would shake her world, wipe out millions in contracts, and nearly end her career for good. But Lola Falana was no stranger to pain. And what she did next would turn tragedy into transformation, not with cameras watching, but with faith and fire. The collapse. Fame fades, then her body follows. By 1987, Lola Falana was still a household name, but her world was beginning to shift. During rehearsals for a $2 million Vegas production, she noticed numbness in her left arm. Then came fatigue. Then came pain. One morning, she woke up unable to move the left side of her body. Panic set in. Doctors delivered the news. Multiple sclerosis, a neurological disease with no cure. In a single diagnosis, the woman who had once danced for 3,000 people a night suddenly couldn't walk without falling. The contracts vanished instantly. Her long-awaited television comeback was canceled. Insurance underwriters pulled out. Overnight, Lola lost not just mobility but her career, her identity. Her Las Vegas residency, which had earned her $100,000 per week, was terminated. For someone whose entire life was built on motion, the pirouette, the strut, the defiant stomp, this was a cruel betrayal. She fell 5 times the first day she refused a walker, crawling to her piano instead of asking for help. But she didn't just survive. She fought. She turned to faith. Not fame. She called it her miracle moment. Doctors couldn't explain it, but over the next 6 months, her symptoms eased. She regained partial movement. The comeback shows didn't return, but something else did. Her will to live without applause. By 1988, she had converted to Catholicism, embracing not just healing, but humility. "I lost my stage," she said, "but I found my soul." That year changed everything. She no longer chased limelight. She sought light. She didn't speak of comebacks. She spoke of grace. "God slowed me down," she said in a 1989 interview. "Not to stop me, but to save me." The audience she performed for now? Herself. In silence, in stillness, in prayer. Lola Falana could have fought her way back into the spotlight, but she didn't. Instead, she did something most stars never do. She let go. The next chapter wouldn't come with cameras, contracts, or curtain calls. It came in the quiet, on her own terms. No sequins, no PR tours, no goodbyes. Just one final show. And then, peace. The final curtain. In 1997, Lola performed her last known public show at Wayne Newton's Theater in Las Vegas. There were no headlines, no press release, just a simple act of closure. She walked on stage wearing white robes, sandals, and a small crucifix, a far cry from the sequined gowns and feathered fans that once defined her. For the first time in her career, she sang not to dazzle, but to thank. And when the curtain fell, so did the era. Gone were the wigs, the backup dancers, the million-dollar sets. She moved out of the spotlight like she had once entered it, with intention and fire. She turned down retrospectives, declined Lifetime Achievement Awards, passed on biopics. She even refused a 7-figure memoir deal that would have told all. Her reason? "Some stories are sacred," she said. "Not everything is for sale." She left behind more than sequins and songbooks. She left behind a diary, unpublished, handwritten entries that chronicled her rise, her falls, and the spiritual ache of being loved on stage, but lonely off of it. She never released it. She never had to. Her silence spoke louder than any tell-all ever could. And with that, she faded, not from history, but from view. She didn't vanish because she was broken. She vanished because she had said everything she needed to. Lola didn't need a comeback. She needed a life. And, in walking away, she found one. But Lola Falana wasn't done changing lives. She didn't need a stage to serve. She didn't need a spotlight to make impact. In her next chapter, she would travel far from the flashing bulbs of Vegas, to places where suffering wasn't scripted and service wasn't glamorous. Because real love, the kind that gives without asking, was waiting. And this time, Lola showed up not to perform, but to heal. From star to servant. In 2002, Lola founded the Lambs of God Ministry, a nonprofit dedicated to helping AIDS orphans in sub-Saharan Africa. She didn't announce it with fanfare. No press tour, no camera crew. She just went. By foot, by truck, through the villages of Malawi, Zambia, and Kenya, often carrying her own supplies. She built schools, donated medicine, and personally cared for sick children, wiping tears, cooking meals, whispering prayers. She refused titles. "Don't call me celebrity," she said. "I'm a servant now." She wore simple clothes, white cotton, soft shoes, and a wooden cross. No glam squad, no entourage, just Lola and purpose. Locals called her Mama Lolitha, not because of her fame, but because of her faith. And in these quiet corners of the world, she found the kind of applause that echoed in eternity. Her mission was radical, not just in geography, but in identity. "I was once a sex symbol," she told a priest in 2003. "Now I want to live like the mother of Jesus." She proclaimed celibacy, left behind romance, and focused entirely on the broken, the poor, the forgotten. She didn't wait for the church to tell her how to serve. She simply did it. By 2010, she had built over a dozen shelters, educated hundreds of children, and inspired a small army of volunteers. Few knew. Even fewer reported it. But that's how Lola wanted it. This chapter wasn't about headlines. It was about healing. And now, in the age of digital noise and forced nostalgia, Lola Falana remains the rarest thing in showbiz, a mystery. But for those who wonder where she is, or what she looks like now, the answer is simple. She's not trying to be remembered. She's just trying to be at peace. And somehow, in choosing silence, she's become unforgettable. What Lola Falana looks like now. Lola Falana lives today in quiet seclusion in Philadelphia. She is now in her 80s, but from the stages of Vegas and the cameras of Hollywood, neighbors say she's serene, always in white cotton, sandals, rosary in hand. Her once famous afro is now streaked with gray, tied back with care. Her skin glows, not from makeup, but from peace. She walks slowly, prays often, and smiles without needing a reason. There are no selfies, no Instagram, no glossy magazine features. She turns down interviews, avoids red carpets, and lives without assistants or staff. She shops at corner markets, volunteers at her local church, and sings quietly to herself in the mornings. She never remarried. She never returned to Vegas. Her life is now ruled by two things: faith and simplicity. And yet, the world still wonders. Fans ask, where is Lola Falana? The truth is, she's right there, exactly where she wants to be. A woman who walked away from everything most people chase, for something they'll never understand. Not fame, not money, just freedom. Lola Falana didn't just break barriers, she broke cycles of exploitation, of noise, of needing to be seen to feel valuable. She showed the world what it means to survive fame, and then outgrow it. In doing so, she left behind not just a legacy, but a lesson. That peace, not applause, is the real standing ovation. Lola Falana didn't fade, she transformed. After conquering stages from Broadway to Las Vegas, she gave it all up for something bigger than fame: peace. Diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1987, she stepped back from the spotlight, finding healing in her faith and purpose in service. By the early 2000s, she was quietly building orphanages in Africa, turning her platform into a mission. Now in her 80s, Lola lives in quiet seclusion in Philadelphia. There are no paparazzi, no press releases, no red carpets. She wears white robes, walks in soft sandals, and is often seen with a rosary in hand. Her once famous glamour has given way to a deeper beauty, one rooted in grace, humility, and resilience. She doesn't chase the spotlight. She doesn't need to. Because long after the applause fades, the legend of Lola Falana lives on, not just in music or movies, but in hearts, in history, and in the lives she's changed far from the stage. In choosing silence, she gave the world her loudest message. You don't need to be seen to be legendary. And that's what she looks like now, at peace and more powerful than ever.